Do you ever see pieces on the side of the road and think, what are they doing? How could they throw that away? Well, this is not one of those pieces. This one definitely looked like it belonged in the trash. I'm Autumn. Come along with me with the Furniture Flipper's Guide as we do totally doable DIYs and attempt to save this trash buffet and turn it into a modern beauty. I've got lots of plans. I think we can do it. Let's just cross our fingers. Do you ever have a project that you put off for a while? That's what happened with this piece. Life got in the way, and I'm going to tell you the story of what happened. But before we do that, I want to tell you that this piece is part of a furniture challenge, the Ugly Duckling Challenge, hosted by Corey from Desert DIY. And I'm so excited to try to turn this piece from a very ugly duckling to a swan. So I found this buffet on Facebook Marketplace. Of course, they had taken a really beautiful picture from, a good angle that didn't show any of the damage. And I was so excited that I had found a piece that was only $50 that was a beautiful buffet. So I immediately grabbed my trailer, headed to their house, picked it up, and was very, very disappointed. All of the veneer was rotten, was falling off, and there was damage everywhere. I was determined to save this piece, but little did I know what was coming. We had lived in West Texas for over a decade, and all of a sudden we found out my husband had gotten a new job in East Texas. So we packed up the entire house. I said goodbye to the home that I had been working on for years and years and where I had started my furniture business, and we got ready to start a new adventure. The packing process, I got rid of so many pieces of furniture, but I couldn't let go of that buffet. For some reason, we packed it up and took it along with us. We moved into our new home, and there were so many things to fix and work on in the home that the little buffet was totally ignored. And on top of that, my daughter was a senior, so all those activities were happening as well. Eventually, I finally got to come back to this buffet, and I remembered why I was putting it off. There was so much damage, and I had no idea how I was going to save this piece. The first step in this makeover was reminding myself that it's not going to be perfect. There is so much damage, and unless I was willing to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars restoring this piece, then I was just going to have to do my best to fix what was already there. So I sanded down the areas where I had removed the veneer and attempted to smooth out those doors. Even I was impressed with how much you can save by sanding things down. If you see that huge gouge in the middle of the door, I was so nervous that I was not going to be able to get that out and that it was going to ruin my piece. But my sander came to the rescue. I started with a low 80 grit and moved up from there to 120 and then 220. I also got started sanding the top, and as you can see, there were so many cracks that needed repairing. I did get some Bondo out and started repairing those, but I needed to take a break, and we wanted to see our new town in the new area where we live. So let me show you what we found. Moving from West Texas to East Texas has been a completely different world. We were told to go visit this nature preserve because it was really neat. Little did we know that it was full of alligators. We are not used to alligators in our neck of the woods, so this was so crazy. We were so excited, and my girls had so much fun seeing all the differences from dry West Texas to the swampy, beautiful, wet lands of East Texas. We weren't sure what to think, but we enjoyed the experience. What would you do if you went to a park and there were that many alligators there? I got back to work sanding that top. As you can see, there's some Bondo on there where I made repairs, and then I started, looking at all the damage. I needed to repair the side, and I would be having to replace that bottom wood area. I started repairing the side with Bondo, and I will tell you, when it is hot outside, Bondo dries really fast, so you have to move quickly, and you have to be careful how much hardener you mix into it because it will dry very quickly if you add too much hardener. Once I had finished all the repairs, I started prepping the piece for the stain and paint. Since this piece had some really beautiful wood, I wanted to stain it. I picked a gorgeous dark walnut stain that would just really enhance that wood color. As always, if you have questions about the products that I'm using, be sure to check out the description. I will have it all linked below, and also feel free to ask any questions that you have. Sometimes I forget to include certain things, so be sure and add them in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I can. After staining all the areas that I thought would be a beautiful accent to the piece, I got to work on the drawers. I prepped them and then got the hardware ready. This is a fun tip that I'm going to share with you. So, if you have hardware that has handles and you want both sides to have paint on them, toothpicks are a perfect thing to use to hold those handles up in the air, and that way you can spray both sides without having to let one dry and then switch to the other side. Okay, it is time for my favorite part, the paint. So I put the drawers back in and grabbed this new paint. It is called Up Paint, and it is made from recycled paint. So that is something I really think is cool, and I actually was really impressed with it. Sometimes you try new paints and you just don't know what to expect, but this one, I really liked it. Many times I will spray my paint or my furniture to get a really smooth surface, and with this one, because I was going to be staining, I didn't want to have to tape it off or spray it first. I just wanted to go ahead and roll it on, and I was really impressed with the smoothness and the coverage of this. Although I will say it was sometimes difficult because I had so many gouges and places where I had sanded, so it was not always an even surface. So it did take a couple of different tries to get those areas painted. I will say that one thing about hand rolling or hand painting pieces is that it is so much more relaxing and satisfying sometimes because you can just calm your thoughts and just paint. It is one of the reasons why I got into furniture refinishing, and I still love to just hand paint sometimes. I went in and got all of the details fixed. I fixed a few of the stain areas and all of the edges where the paint needed to be fixed, and it was time to move inside. The piece was starting to look like it didn't quite belong in the trash anymore, and the one way I knew to really make it look like it wasn't going to be trash-worthy was to put a new back on it. So I cut and measured, measured and then cut some 1/4-inch plywood. And this will be used as the backing, but also those bottoms for those cabinets that were on the sides. Yeah, those were completely rotten. I then made sure that the backing would fit, but realized there were still so many nails in the back. Oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe how many. I won't make you watch the whole time while I removed them, but let's just say this is how many there were. I grabbed one of my favorite tools, my battery-powered nailer, and tacked that back in. One of my favorite things to do is just go ahead and nail it in the middle and then nail each corner so that it stays, and then go in and finish all the middle areas. Y'all, we're getting so close to the end. I'm so excited. Up next, I grabbed my wax sealer that is also sold by Up Paint, and this one actually has a really good leather smell to it, and I love it. Apparently, I did not realize that my dog had laid on the brush whenever I sat it down for a minute, and I got a few hairs in the wax. But what I love about it is that it is hemp oil and waxed base, so it makes it much more natural and safe, and even better to use if you're going to be using it in a kitchen or with dishes. Speaking of dishes, we can't forget about the interior of this piece. I wanted to make sure that the interior looked just as beautiful as the exterior. So I had a few ways I was going to do this. First, I grabbed those pieces that I had cut of the 1/4-inch plywood and replaced that rotten wood. And then I got to work lining those drawers with some really beautiful paper. I used some spray glue, and you have a little bit of workable time after you spray it, so you can move that paper around if you don't get it in perfectly. And then I took a sharp edge utility blade and just cut around those edges to really trim and make that paper fit perfectly. Make sure to work pretty quickly, because if that glue dries, that paper is not moving. All right, y'all, I can't wait any longer. Let me show you the final project. Here was the before, our very ugly duckling. And here is the after. I cannot believe how far this piece has come. I would love to know what you think. Would you have saved this piece? Would you have been able to imagine it looking like this? I am so excited. I would love to hear all your comments and if you would have done it any differently. As always, thank you so much for being here with the Furniture Flippers Guide. I love getting to share with y'all what I do, and I want you to remember that you've got this too. Stick with it. You can do it.